Welcome to the first episode of the Gridiron Guys YouTube channel, and today we are going to be discussing our latest mock draft for the 2020 NFL Draft, which is less than a week away, and we are all very excited. So let's get right into it. And with the first pick, we have Joe Burrow to Cincinnati Bengals. This one is kind of a no-brainer. Burrow is a number one ranked quarterback on our board. He had one of the best 2020 quarterback seasons for a collegiate quarterback ever. And he checks all the boxes with accuracy, awareness, ball security, and touch. Kevin, can you give me what do you think Joe Burrow's NFL ceiling is looking like for the Cincinnati Bengals?
Well, Joe Burrow is most likely, he has all the tools to become a great quarterback at the next level, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals were to take him and build a great team around him. I mean, it's a pretty much no-brainer. They're going to take Joe Burrow at this number one overall pick. Like we know, the first two picks are kind of already set,
And
but
with that, we're moving on to Chase Young
yeah.
for the Washington Redskins. And this is another no-brainer. One of the most dominant edge products coming out of college in the last 5 to 10 years. Completely polished, dominant force. Despite the Redskins' quarterback woes, Young should be an immediate impact starter for years to come and really bolster an already strong Redskins defensive line. And Kevin, moving on, who do you have us taking? Who do you have the Detroit Lions taking at number 3, where the NFL draft actually starts?
So where the draft actually starts, technically number three, but really number one, the Detroit Lions select Jeff Okudah to fill in the hole that is now left by former Detroit Lions cornerback Darius Slay, now on the Eagles. Jeff Okudah is a great man cornerback. He's virtually, you couldn't throw it to him, or else it was going to be a pick, incompletion, PBU. He's unstoppable on the defensive side of the ball, and I think he'll translate nicely into the NFL.
Yeah, there's also a spot where the Detroit Lions could be looking to move out, but as of now, with the Tua stock falling, and we don't have Herbert ranked that dominant of a quarterback. We just don't see a market for the Lions to trade out to a team like the Chargers or the Dolphins. But with the next pick, we have the New York Giants selecting Jedrick Wills, and we do not have New York trying to trade out. We think they're going to stay and pick the best possible offensive tackle, and that is because protecting Daniel Jones and helping Saquon Barkley is a important thing for that team. Isaiah Simmons was tempting here. He fits many needs, but ultimately position value points to Jedrick Wills, and the New York Giants take the big offensive lineman out of Alabama. Kevin, what do you have the Miami Dolphins doing?
At number five, the Miami Dolphins are going to pass on Tua Tagovailoa, and they're going to take Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert had a great Senior Bowl week to show off all of his skills, and I think the Dolphins are the team that is most in love with him. As I've heard, their war room is split between Tua and Herbert, but now with all of Tua's injury concerns coming up again, three teams have taken him off their draft boards entirely. I think the Dolphins are going to go with the safe pick, a guy who hasn't had many injuries and has a lot of potential, who we think could be like Carson Wentz at max potential.
Precisely, but we also don't have Herbert rated a top 5 pick, only an 82 compared to Tua, who is a 90. And I think Miami passes mainly because durability is a huge thing, and trying to build a team around a non-durable quarterback, especially with a shaky offensive line as they have in Miami, it's something that bodes trouble for the Dolphins. And I think they take Herbert because they see the prototypical NFL QB build, and they fall in love with the arm strength. But Tua does not get taken by the LA Chargers. We have the LA Chargers taking Andrew Thomas out of Georgia to solidify an offensive line, which has really improved this offseason with the acquiring of, I should say, of Trey Turner. Andrew Thomas can really complete that offensive line and give the Chargers one of the most well-rounded, uh, honestly, teams outside of
Yeah,
quarterback.
rosters.
And what do you think they're going to do with their quarterback slot? Or do you think they're going to stick with Tyrod or what?
I think what's going to happen is the Chargers are just going to stick put at six and see who is the best player available. That might be Isaiah Simmons. In this scenario, we have Andrew Thomas as the best player available. judging that they had a lot of tackle issues. They already signed Brian Bulaga to shore up the right side. Signing Andrew Tom or drafting Andrew Thomas would shore up the left side. He was a dominant left tackle in the SEC, playing the best competition in college football. I think he's a future star in the NFL. I think this should be a no-brainer for the Chargers, taking a left tackle instead, considering there's a lot of quarterbacks out there. I think it's only a matter of time before they sign Cam Newton or James
Yeah,
Winston even.
I agree. I think they're not in love with any of these quarterbacks. Maybe they try to make a move at the end of the first to get one if one really falls. If two is there at 26, 27, maybe they try to go get him. Highly unlikely. Andrew Thomas is going to be a dominant force. And honestly, I haven't seen this pick in one mock draft, but I think it makes the most sense for the Chargers. Now, Isaiah Simmons to the Carolina Panthers. Matt Rule needs to add to that roster. It has been stripped of so much talent, and Isaiah Simmons might be the best player in this draft outside of Chase Young. So dominant, so versatile. He's going to come in and be able to fill Luke Kuechly's shoes better than anyone I could see. Now, Kevin, have you been hearing these Justin Jefferson rumors? What do you make of that or this pick right here?
Yeah, I think that's. I think it's just the Panthers trying to clear some smoke, or basically just throwing smoke at their pick, so people will try and trade up ahead of them, get somebody else. But I think they're really just going to go best player available here. I don't think you can pass on Isaiah Simmons if you're a team like Carolina. Everything you need. You just lost Luke Kuechly.
So easy if he's there. It's such an easy pick.
Yeah.
You submit that in 10 seconds. He's a top five talent, and it'd be funny if Matt Rule just takes over and this guys like Justin Jefferson. They would give Chip Kelly vibes all over again, and that all those fans who were craving for Matt Rule as Giants fans would start laughing in their seats after they select Jedrick Wills. But moving on to the eighth pick, another basically no-brainer we feel is the Cardinals taking Tristan Wirfs. They can't get greedy here and take a receiver, Kevin. What do you think of that? Do you think the Cardinals be smart and take the tackle or go with a wide receiver? We have them with a tackle, but what do you think they're really going to do?
I think the Cardinals should take offensive tackle or some sort of an offensive lineman here. I think by the Chargers taking Andrew Thomas, they're going to be Tristan Wirfs, who I think is better suited as a guard. But the Cardinals are the one team that I think that's going to take an offensive lineman. They could use any offensive lineman, really. Because even if Wirfs does not pan out as the best tackle, I think he'll slide right in at guard and be elite there. And
Yeah,
I don't think there's need for another position.
that's the only reason why we have Wirfs grading out so low for our prospects so far in 85, because we project him as a guard. The run blocking and strength aren't too high, but he really projects well as a guard at the next level due to his insane athleticism, quickness, and speed to get to second level defenders, where his run blocking and strength won't be as important to push big nose tackles or D ends off the ball, rather 220-pound linebackers. So Wirfs is a great fit for the Arizona Cardinals. And now our first trade of the mock draft. Kevin, explain to us why we think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be trading back with the 49ers so
So
the 49ers can take Judy.
this trade is the first domino to fall in the wide receiver. I don't know how to say. I guess the wide receiver
Carousel.
carousel. Yeah. So the rumors have recently started up that Denver really wants a wide receiver, and Cleveland really wants a tackle, which we'll get into later. But I think there's going to be a lot of trading up for these guys because there's teams like Oakland, New York Jets, San
Everyone needs
Francisco,
their receiver.
Denver. They all need receivers, and there's realistically three that could go. And San Francisco purposely traded up with Indianapolis, knowing that they can get a good receiver at 13. I think they have the ammo to move up. They make a trade with Jacksonville to get ahead of a team like Denver, which we'll get into in a little bit. But Jacksonville trades back because their needs are they don't need to be filled right here. They can trade back a little bit, get some more draft picks, help with the rebuild. San Francisco doesn't need that many players. They just really need a number one wide receiver to go along with Debo. And I think they get that here with Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy's probably the best route runner in this class. Some people call him like Amari Cooper type. Some people call him an Antonio Brown type. Either way, I think he'll be a great receiver at the next level.
And we don't have Judy as our wide receiver one, we have Ruggs as our wide receiver one, but we just feel with Marquise Goodwin and Deebo Samuel having so much speed, we don't see a need for Ruggs in the San Fran system. But with the 10th pick, we have Cleveland trading out with another wide receiver needy team, the Denver Broncos, for our wide receiver two, CeeDee Lamb. And with the young quarterback, Drew Lock, and the rising star, Courtland Sutton, CeeDee Lamb would fit perfectly into this offense.
Lethal combination.
Lethal. It'd be great. It'd be a great combination for a Denver offense that's honestly been kind of terrible over the last couple of years. Cleveland gets to move back because there have been rumors that they're targeting Ezra Cleveland out of Boise State, and quite frankly, he's not going to. They don't need to be at pick 10 to select him if he's their guy. This is a no-brainer for Cleveland if they get the offer from Denver to trade up for receiver. In Denver, this is a no-brainer to get your young quarterback, who a lot is unknown about, two great receivers for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I think Denver doing this will assure that Drew Lock is their quarterback for the future, and we'll get to see what Drew Lock really is because we only got to see a little bit of him last year. And this allows us to, and it allows the Broncos to guarantee that they will get a receiver.
Yeah, and as you've gotten that sneak peek of the next pick, the New York Jets are taking Henry Ruggs to complete the run on our top three receivers. And this is such a Jets pick, let's be honest. Mekhi Becton, great tackle out of Louisville, is on the board. He has been flagged for some drug issues, but it does not matter. Henry Ruggs is no knock on Henry Ruggs, phenomenal receiver. We have him as number one in the class. Elite speed, beyond elite speed. Great route runner for his speed, and honestly good size. He is the next Tyreek Hill, game-changing player. But this should be Mekhi Becton, but I don't think it's Mekhi Becton, and that's the problem, and that's the New York Jets for you. But with the 13th pick, we have another.
Yes.
The 12th pick, sorry. We have another trade with Kevin's favorite team, the Oakland Raiders.
Las Vegas.
Tell us what you think. That didn't take a while.
Yeah,
Tell us why you think the Raiders are trading out.
All right, so as a Raider fan, Mike Mack loves his picks. We don't have a second rounder. We need a second rounder. And here, realistically, we could take C.J. Henderson, but there have been a lot of rumors out there that the Atlanta Falcons love C.J. Henderson and would be willing to trade up. They want a cornerback bad, and I think the Raiders, knowing that they moved down 4 slots, can still get a receiver that they'd want. And because they miss out on all 3 receivers, they feel the need they can move down. They'll get a good pick in a couple of picks. Plus, they get some more depth in the second round, which allows them to fill out the roster better. So I think this is a no-brainer for both teams, similar to the Denver-Cleveland trade. And Atlanta now gets their cornerback.
Yeah. I also think Oakland could very well take this pick and take Henderson. We are very high on Henderson. We have him in 91 overall grade. Great speed, great athlete, great man coverage, projects well at the next level. And he's been a riser of late, and it's interesting to see if this is Atlanta's guy and they go get him. And now a prospect we are not so high on as many others is Derek Brown out of Auburn. The Jacksonville Jaguars honestly could have taken him early on with their first round selection, but trading back was a no-brainer with the 49ers because they thought they could get their guy and acquire extra draft capital for that rebuilding team. Now, Derek Brown is a dominant force when he's trying. And in a lot of tape I've seen, his motor is inconsistent. I've seen 3 drives where he is in the backfield every single play, and then I've seen 3 consecutive drives where he doesn't do absolutely anything. The potential is limitless, and at this point, I think the risk is far less for Jacksonville, especially with the acquiring of other draft picks. How do you feel about Derek Brown?
I think Derek Brown's got all the tools to be a great defensive tackle at the next level. He can honestly switch to an end too and play that pretty well in certain schemes. But I think Jacksonville really gets a need here, which is defensive tackle. Plus, I think he might be the best player available at the time. So I think it's a win-win.
He's honestly been linked to the Detroit Lions at 3. He's a very talented player. If he had a great motor, he would be top 5 pick probably. He'd be dominant. I just seen flashes. He's got to put it all together. And another guy we've seen flashes from is the next pick to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Getting a steal is Mekhi Becton. If it wasn't for this flag drug test, he would be a top 10 pick. He dominates the man in front of him. He is
Big
massive as
dog.
well, 6'7", 364. He honestly has the most potential out of almost any single player in this entire class. He could be a Hall of Fame left tackle, or he could be the next Eric Flowers top 10 bus. He is 10 out of 10 strength, 14 out of 15 run blocking. He's all the intangibles. It's all if someone can refine his technique slightly and just make him a slightly better pass blocker, he will be phenomenal at the next level. And to get this man to protect Tom Brady has got to be so happy if this guy comes to your team. Bruce Arians can control locker room issues. If Mekhi Becton and his failed drug test turns out to be an issue, Bruce Arians has shown he can handle all that. I'm not too worried about that, but this would be a steal for the Tampa Bay
Mm.
Buccaneers. And now, an offensive tackle who has just come into recent consideration for the Cleveland Browns, Ezra Cleveland. And Ezra Cleveland is not a top 20 pick at all, but the Cleveland Browns have been linked to him. They really need the tackle help, and they still have to fill out that roster, so trading back seems smart, but it seems like a reach even to us.
Yeah,
And I, I don't know.
he.
It just seems like a
It
Cleveland type of
seems
pick. It doesn't seem.
it's kind of the same as a couple of years ago when the Raiders took Colton Miller. About a few days before the draft, Colton Miller was maybe going to go with the last couple of picks in the first round, but most likely a mid-second round pick. But then all of a sudden, the rumors started up that he's going to go early, and the Raiders took him at 15, surprised everybody. So I think this is a very similar type of situation.
I mean, if the Browns think this is their one of the best tackles in the class, and they can trade back and get him with extra draft capital, they got to go do it. I personally don't think he would have been a first round pick otherwise, but the rumors have been there. The fit and the need are both there. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. We will see. But with the Raiders trading back at pick 16, they select Justin Jefferson to give Derek Carr that much needed wide receiver one. Why do you have the Raiders going offense, especially receiver here, over a defense that needs some work?
We desperately need a wide receiver because somebody who I think everybody knows by AB, he kind of ruined our season last year. We had no receiving depth. Didn't help. Tyrell Williams got hurt. A lot of players just got hurt. We need a wide receiver, and a young wide receiver in Justin Jefferson would be amazing. I think he had 18 touchdowns last year for LSU. Any other year, he's a top 10 pick. But I think with the depth of this year's class, he's going to fall a little bit. And a lot of people have him linked to the Eagles at 21, but I just think he goes a lot earlier. And I think with the Raiders trading back here, he's the best player available, and he fits a position of need, so I think it's a no-brainer. Also a Mike Mayock guy.
Yeah,
I
and
feel like Mike Mayock really would like him.
yeah, he's a great player and be a great fit with the Raiders. But speaking of a guy who has had a bad draft stock lately, is Tua Tagovailoa. And if the NFL, I'm blaming this on the NFL. If the NFL lets him get the pick 17, that's a crime. The Saints see that and they
They
go up and
pounce.
get him. Drew Brees, this is his last year, and he will be out of the league, I assume, after he retires this season. And the Saints have a phenomenal offensive line. Drew Brees was sacked like 10 times last year. They can protect Tua. They give him elite weapons. He can come in there and beat Deshaun Watson from day one. He's that talented. He has dual threat, great accuracy, leader. He has it all. He could be, if it wasn't for durability concerns, he'd be right there with Joe Burrow for the number one draft selection. And a lot of negative hype, and especially teams that there's not that many teams that need quarterbacks currently, I think is going to create a fall for his draft stock, similar to what Aaron Rodgers experienced when he was in the drafts. And the Saints are just gonna they probably weren't even expecting to do this prior to the drafts because they're in a win now mode, but they see they can set up their future for 15 years, and I think they're gonna pounce.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
think
That's
he's too good of a talent, and the Saints are going to see that. If he's, I think if he falls past pick 15, some team's going to trade up for him because he's too good of a talent, and there's going to be a quarterback, well, a team that has a veteran quarterback that will pounce on him and let him sit for a year or so. It's also kind of funny how he's getting compared to Drew Brees with his accuracy and all that, and he would get to learn from Drew Brees. I think it's just a story, a
It'd be
great story.
the Saints. The Saints would be so lucky. They'd be set up for another 10-year dynasty on top of how dominant they've already been.
Yeah,
In Dallas, a team who has been linked to Cesar Ruiz and cornerbacks can trade back because those players will still be available and acquire extra draft capital. But the Miami Dolphins, who, in my opinion, are making a mistake by passing on Tua, with their 18th pick, select Javon Kinlaw, and it's his best player available. And Miami, having such a terrible roster, overhauling much of it, can really start to bolster their defense with the selection after signing Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy, and Eric Flowers on the offense side of the ball. Adding Kinlaw would start to form a defense that's starting to shape up, and you're starting to see an identity. Talented interior defensive lineman, great pass rusher. But my concern when watching his tape, similar to Derek Brown, is you see such dominance, but you also see such a lack of motor and lack of hustle at times that I really leave some more to be desired. I also am concerned with his hand usage. When he seems to get stifled by an offensive lineman, he kind of just bull rushes them because he doesn't know what to do. If he could add a spin or a rip move, he could be a 10 sack guy like Chris Jones on the interior. Such a force as we've seen in the Super Bowl. But Miami picks best player available and builds to a rebuilding team. Now, Kevin, your Raiders with the next pick after not taking corner.
I
Who
think they're
did they
going to
go
go
with?
with AJ Terrell here, cornerback at Clemson. Shocker, Mike Mayock takes another Clemson guy. At this pick, if we don't trade at 12 and we take a cornerback there, I think Jefferson might still be here potentially, and we could take him here. But I think between 12 and 19, we're going to trade out of one of them so we can get a second round pick. But AJ Terrell, I think he's a long corner. We were trying to get James Bradbury in free agency. Eli Apple's deal fell through. So I think we're going to do everything we can to get a wide receiver in a corner in this year's first round. And AJ Terrell being the Clemson guy he is, and he's a long cornerback, it fits what we need. So
Yeah, this is where talent fits need, and the Raiders really get lucky with where their draft picks end up, and I think this is a great selection. And honestly, with these two picks, I can see Oakland very well competing for a playoff spot next year. But another team that is definitely not competing for a playoff spot is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they get a player here who we both believed is very overhyped
he's
in
raw.
Clavon Chason. He's very raw, and the top 15 hype I was not getting. But Jacksonville needs talent, and especially on the defense side of the ball. And when they see they can pair Chason and Derek Brown together in the same draft to fix that defensive line, they
D-line could
are
be a
drooling.
scary sight in a few
But
years, if that's the case.
if he could put it together, he has Von Miller potential. But the problem is he's so raw that it's going to require some great coaching. His athleticism is phenomenal, and I think he projects better as an off-ball linebacker who can play a role similar to Anthony Barr, getting out more in space more often and not putting his hand in the dirt. And that's just because he's already 20. He's played a lot of football in his life, and not being able to rush the passer, I think less than 10 career sacks, is hard for an edge rusher in the first round to justify. But that athleticism makes him so versatile, which is why Jacksonville takes the chance on a high risk, high reward prospect. But now moving on to the Eagles. And the Eagles here could have won a lot of routes. But why do we have them
Well,
selecting
first of
McKinney,
all,
Kevin?
they obviously have the biggest need at wide receiver. And at this point, they could realistically trade back and take a receiver later. But the loss of Malcolm Jenkins is obviously a huge loss. And I think there's no better way to plug in that hole by getting Xavier McKinney. Not our top rated safety, but still a guy who is like Tyrann Mathieu. He's a very versatile safety. He can play a lot of different positions, like linebacker if needed. He can play free safety. He can play strong safety. He can play slot cornerback really well too. And this is just a guy that the Eagles can help bolster on their defense. It's a safe pick. I think he's just going to be a great player too.
I think I also think Philly sees the receiver depth here, and with a roster that's honestly gotten more holes than one would have expected with the Super Bowl champion of a few years ago. They see a starting caliber player that they can plug and play in many positions, and they see a wide receiver class that is deep, and they decide to go safety. And I think almost every mock draft has them taking a wide receiver. But now for the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings take one of my favorite players in this draft, and that is Zach Bond. And I think he's very underrated. I would like to see him. I think he is top 15 talent. He is very, very smart player with great instincts. He's also an extremely underrated pass rusher. He is coming out as a player who can get plug and play day one, give you 8 sacks, probably 80 tackles. Minnesota's getting a steal of a player, a great replacement for Danielle Hunter, and a great way to bolster defense. And he hasn't got a lot of first round hype. He may even fall out of the first round. And Minnesota sees the talent. Mike Zimmer loves that defense side of the ball. It was an easy pick for Minnesota. Do you think they go wide receiver here any chance, or think
I
Zach Bond
think
is the pick?
that they have to go. I think what they're going to do is they're going to take a wide receiver later on, knowing there's a lot of depth, and they're going to take a position of need here, which in this case, Zach Bond, because our next pick, the Patriots, are going to most likely take Zach Bond if he's there, in my opinion. He just fits everything they need. He's very similar to Van Noy, who they lost in free agency. I think Bond would be a perfect fit for New England. But because they can't get Zach Bond, I think the Patriots wind up taking Yetur Gross-Matos. And Matt, what do you think about Yetur?
I think New England's a wild card, to be honest, but we have Yetur rated as one of our best players available at this time, and he is very raw, similar to Chason. He had better production, which is why we like him better, and he has a higher grade. But New England sees this dominant young kid on the inside, and they're thinking, wow, we could turn this man into an absolute monster. And I think Bill Belichick might he wants to prove people wrong that he doesn't need Brady to win. And adding Yetur Gross Matos to a number one ranked defense last year will make it more disruptive. They have so many complementary picks to add talent for whoever the quarterback is next year, who I think is going to be Stidham, honestly. And I think they just take best player available, add to that defensive line. It's
They
won
always
them
go
Super
for the
Bowls. They'll
safe
continue
pick,
to
not
work.
the sexy pick. And I think this is what it is.
That's the New England way. And the Dallas way is taking offensive linemen, and they're taking Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan to fill Travis Frederick's shoes. And we don't have Cesar Ruiz graded that highly. Don't have him with first round grade, mid second. But Dallas drafts on need here. They've had a lot of rumors, and I think the rumors are true that they're going to draft center to protect Dak Prescott, but also really run the ball as their identity is. And I think they just kind of reach here and go with the need pick over best player available, which is likely a corner to fill Byron Jones' shoes, which is definitely an option. But I see
Yeah, I
Ruiz
like
for the
Ruiz's fit too
Cowboys.
because he may not be a first round graded. Like he may not be a first round player, but he's not going to last much longer than a few picks into the second round.
He
No,
won't
and they
get back
have to
around
get
to
an
the
offensive
second.
lineman here. He's probably the best interior offensive lineman in this class. So they get what they need here, and I think they fill their holes.
Yeah, there's no chance he would get past the Giants at 39, 37. So the Dallas gets their guy. They traded back. They had some extra draft capital. And Minnesota actually ignores the wide receiver position and goes Jeff Gladney, one of our highest rated players on our board. Dominant quarter at TCU. Physical, can cover, great ball skills. And Minnesota, despite the departures from Danielle Hunter, Xavier Rhodes, they had a lot of talent to fill those positions with Zach Bond and Jeff Gladney and jump right back into contention in the NFC. Do you think this Minnesota defense can even be even better than it was last year with these new additions if
It's
they take
definitely
Zach Bond and
possible. I
Jeff
mean,
Gladney?
Gladney's a Mike Zimmer cornerback. Losing Everson Griffin and Trey Waynes and Xavier Rhodes is huge, but I think they're going to be able to get a lot of production out of these guys. And at this pick at 25, I think they're either going to get Jeff Gladney or AJ Terrell, depending on who the Raiders take at 19, assuming they stay at 19. But I think like you said before, they're not going to go wide receiver here because there's so much depth, and they can get a guy like Brandon Ayuk or KJ Hamler or Jalen Rieger or
KJ
Chase
Hamler.
Claypool later on in the draft.
There are wide receiver ones in the
Exactly.
second round. You
There's a
cannot
lot of
find that
depth between wide
anywhere else in
receivers,
any other
so
draft
I
besides
think they'll
this
be all
one.
right. They need a cornerback though, and they get it right here.
Exactly. Now the Miami Dolphins protect their investment in Justin Herbert. Josh Jones may be the sixth tackle off the board, but we have him as a very strong right tackle. Great pass protector, can slide in day one start. He's somewhat raw, but he's a strong pass blocker, and he can really give Herbert that time as all young quarterbacks need. Because as I saw from a Giants fan last year, Daniel Jones had a great arm, was accurate, but had no pocket awareness. Fumbled probably 15 times, and that's because he's getting hit so much more than he expects in college because the defenders are faster, bigger, and his offensive line was frankly not good. But the Miami Dolphins see what the Giants' mistake was, and they draft a tackle to protect their young quarterback. I think this is an easy pick for the Dolphins. They shore up the trenches and pick the most important position in QB. They win the first round, in my opinion, with Kinlaw, Josh Jones, and Herbert. If they get out with that, and all the other draft picks they have, that rebuild's going great. But now the Indianapolis Colts with the surprise trade up for Jordan Love at 27. It was only a matter of time before Jordan Love was selected. We have him as our third ranked quarterback above Herbert, but he's not getting that buzz that we expected. And he has Patrick Mahomes like qualities. And the Colts are a great team to develop him because they have a complete team around him that can help him thrive. They have a great offensive line to allow Jordan Love to use that great arm talent that is so Patrick Mahomes esque. And with trading their 13th pick for DeForest Buckner to the San Francisco 49ers, they see Jordan Love is falling, which I believe he will, and they pounce on him because Phil Rivers, let's be honest, it's not it. It's a
No, I
stopgap.
think he's gonna be good.
Maybe he doesn't make it the
I think he's
entire
gonna be a good
season.
fit. Kind of what the Broncos expected Joe Flacco to be, but I think ultimately Love will take over for him. And I think the Colts have a lot of draft capital and a lot of positional money, or a lot of money to spend. And by trading back into the first round, the Seahawks usually either trade out or they take a risky prospect that's either boom or bust. Last year's was kind of a bust. But I think the Colts used one of their second round picks, maybe both, to trade up here. Get Jordan Love at 27 and use him for the future. Get that fifth year option too. So he doesn't necessarily have to play this year.
Yeah, if Jordan Love pans out to be as good as he can be, that makes the Indianapolis Colts a contender in years to come. And they've been so complacent with their roster, so safe, saving all that money, acquiring all those draft picks. It's about time the Colts made a splashy move to show we're in it to win it, and that is now. And another team that is in it to win it and help their young quarterback is the Baltimore Ravens. And they're adding T. Higgins. We have them adding T. Higgins to an already dynamic offense. Kevin, why do we have T. Higgins over a linebacker such as Kenneth
Well,
Murray or Patrick
I think
Queen?
the Ravens bolstered their defense a lot this offseason. And realistically, they could take a guy like Patrick Queen or Kenneth Murray or even a safety hybrid like Jeremy Chin here at 28, or even trade out if they really wanted to. But I think they're either going to go with a wide receiver in T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, or even a speedster. Maybe even an interior offensive lineman here. But T. Higgins really just fits what they want. He's a big receiver. He can go up and get it. Kind of be the yin to Marquise Brown as a yang type of receiving core. That would be unbelievable for Lamar Jackson and only make that 14-2 team better.
It'd be scary. He'd go in and make that offense so dynamic. I don't think Hollywood's a number one. I think he's a number two. T. Higgins can come in there and live up to that number one potential with T. Higgins, Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews, and Lamar Jackson. Try to stop that. You can't. I'm sorry. Baltimore sees that. Even though the wide receiver class is deep, this is one of the last dynamic, truly number one dominant guys that are left. And they're lucky to see him there at 28, so they take him. And now a team that's not taking a dynamic receiver is the Tennessee Titans. They stick to their identity and pick the mauler Isaiah Wilson. It just fits their game. I'm going to be honest. I don't think Isaiah Wilson should be a first-round pick, but for the Titans, he definitely should be a first-round pick. Because the Titans are running the ball 30, 35 times a game. And Isaiah Wilson, to be honest, can't really pass block. It's not one of his strong suits. But in the run game, he moves people. Similar to Mekhi Becton, he's a body. He just destroys people. Let him go downhill. He's a better replacement than Jack Conklin, and will let Derrick Henry thrive next year. This is one of my favorite first-round fits, to be honest.
It's a great value
Isaiah
pick
Wilson
for
to Tennessee Titans.
29. And I think that the Titans will be getting a steal here. And honestly, with his draft buzz, they might have to trade up and get him if they really want him.
Yeah, there's such a strong tackle class that they may be able to get him at tackle 7 at 29, but they may have to go get their guy. And now a team that is waiting patiently in hopes that a wide receiver falls to them is the Green Bay Packers. And they got to get Aaron Rodgers weapons. And not trying to criticize Rodgers, but he's not the Aaron Rodgers of 5 years ago. He can't win it with nobody. He needs guys to get open. And Devontae Adams can't do it all by himself, as we saw in the NFC Championship game. I think he went for like 150. They need a wide receiver too, and Aiyuk has great speed, great route runner, and I think will jump in right away to complement Adams nicely. But moving on to the San Francisco 49ers, how are they going to fill out the Forrest Buckner?
I think they're going to go with Ross
gap,
Blacklock,
Kevin?
and I think the obvious pick here is a corner, most likely they're not going to be picking at 31 in my opinion. Having traded up, they're going to need to trade back down and get some more picks so they can fill out the roster. But assuming they stay at pick 31, they take Ross Blacklock. Was a lot of explosiveness, and going into a defensive line in the 49ers that has a lot of different unique talents on that line, he's not going to get a whole lot of snaps, but when he plays, you're going to be able to see his explosiveness every play, which will make him an elite defensive tackle and somebody that's going to be forced to be reckoned with. Only going to be better with San Fran.
Yeah, Blacklock has great strengths and bad weaknesses, and his great strengths are elite quickness, speed, and he excels on stunts. So the San Francisco 49ers defensive line is so talented that he'll be getting single-teamed stunts. He can fly around guards and get to the QB. And he's not great at block shedding, but the San Francisco 49ers defensive line is so good that he'll be able to thrive there. On a team where they have a terrible defensive line, like the New York Giants, my favorite team, I can bash them because I'm a fan, he would be bad. But on a team that is talented and can allow him to run stunts, spin moves, all these different confusing schemes for the offensive line, he will wreak havoc on the inside. And I think it's a great fit for a dominant defensive line. And now our Super Bowl champions have the luxury of taking our RB1 in the class, DeAndre Swift. Tell me why Swift is going to make life for Patrick Mahomes so much easier this next regular season.
He's a great receiving threat. He's a great running back with his vision, his quickness. He's exactly what the Chiefs need, and Andy Reid is a running back whisperer. Similar to Bruce Arians being the quarterback whisperer, he is the running back whisperer. He will make you amazing. And I think he could make DeAndre Swift even better than what Kareem Hunt was for a short stint in Kansas City. And the Chiefs are getting a steal at this pick. I also don't think they will be picking here, though. I think they were most likely going to trade out. But this is a great value pick because DeAndre Swift is one of the better players in this class. Just due to the lack of teams that need a running back, all the running backs in this class suffer, even though it's a solid class for running backs. And it's just unfortunate about that.
I think this pick really helps Patrick Mahomes because, let's be honest, the Chiefs are going to have a dominant record next season, probably 13, 14, 15 wins. Probably going back to Super Bowl. And they're going to be up big in a lot of games. And they don't have a running back right now that they can get the ball 25 times to and run it out in the second half. And you don't honestly want Patrick Mahomes to be dropping back up 25. Swift is a guy you can ground and pound, similar to Dalvin Cook, what he did for the Minnesota Vikings. And he can just help them dominate teams in the regular season. And then when playoff time comes and you got to be throwing that ball 50 times in the game in those like that Houston Kansas City game, he can catch the ball in the backfield. Great pass blocker. He can do it all. Kansas City is one of the few teams that has a luxury of going running back in the first round, and I think they do.
Because in a lot of other drafts, I think he would have been taken earlier.
I agree. And that concludes our latest mock draft. We did include trades, and we are going to try to be putting out one the day before the draft with the latest rumors and put it at multiple rounds. If you have any questions or disagree with any of our takes, you comment down below. Our scouting reports are always up for consideration to change things. If you have any points, point them out down below. And that concludes the first episode of the Gridiron Guys podcast.
Thank you for listening.
Our now YouTube channel.